Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 219. I am your host, Lauren Gray, where this week we have some fun conversations for those of you watching us on Instagram story. Our lead story this week is about predicting the Booking.com put out their top 10 predictions of travel trends for 2020. Lots of T's in that one. But that is going to be our highlight of topics for today. In addition to that, our rut row is a Facebook, the Facebook Watch, which all of us have. I don't know whether you use as much as most others do, but they say there are almost 1 billion people now that are watching Facebook Watch, which is Facebook's answer to YouTube. So we're going to talk about the little rut rows that go along with that. So if you catch us on Instagram stories, please go over and connect with us if you want to join the show at bit.ly/HDM show 219. And we hope to see you there. If everyone else is still with us, thank you for joining the show this week. We will be talking... I swept my sweepy back, and there is Mr. Edward St. Ange from Flip2. Mr. Ed, how are you, sir?
Wonderful. How are you?
Whoops, I got to turn my volume down. Woo! I was listening to some tunes.
Oh.
When I get started with that. And I forgot to turn my volume down for it. I was doing I sent you an email that in order to fit into these time slots for
I saw that, yes.
I have to drop certain content pieces at times, and I want to keep focused on the early portions of it. I know I have a 20-minute window for us to hit some of the strong content that will keep us in line with LinkedIn. Mr. Robert Cole, Rock Cheetah, how are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well. How about you two?
Oh, rushing to make sure that I hit all the highlights that you were so generously giving me on the list this week.
Welcome to the Rubik's Cube of video podcasts.
It is that indeed, but we have first 20 minutes, because the problem that I'm having with LinkedIn pushing me back all the time is that, one, our coverage is too long.
What?
And yeah, I know, right? Crazy talk. The other is that I am getting back from some of the ones. Oh, Ed, I have to tell you, I got emails. I got 6 emails. You know how you say at the sometimes end, we can talk about this now because nobody's probably listening anyway? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got 6 emails that said, I am. And I was like, oh man, that's fun. Actually, they were almost all of them for APAC. They all came from the Asian region.
Oh my gosh!
So we must be mindful of our late conversations.
We should put a marker that says, "Okay, from this point forward, you will get absolutely no value whatsoever."
Okay, so here's what we do. We do like all these shows, right? You do the show and then you do the after show.
There you go.
It's the after show. It is the after show. Hey, but I did want to hit on, because it is actually, I think it's a strong article, because I agree with almost all of it, but I disagree with, I think what is a conflict. They made 2 points out of the top 20 trends they think are going to happen in 2020. One is they said it slows down.
Who's this? You got to talk about what article.
Booking.com. Sorry, let me put the link.
Yep.
Booking.com put out their top trends for 2020.
Yep.
One of them is slow down, and then the next one is
speed up.
Speed up.
That's right.
Well, both of them did say like 50%. So
right. Okay, so I guess they're talking to the other half that they didn't talk to in the first comment to it. I guess, yeah, in that sense, it's right to it.
But I think that's the key. That is really the key, that it isn't a one-size-fits-all, that all customers behave exactly the same. You've got a bunch of people who are stressed out. They're really busy. They want to get away and unplug on vacation, sort of thing like, I need to decompress. Right. And the other ones are like, hey, we're wherever. Let's go see stuff. We may not ever be here again, so let's take advantage of it. Right. And those are both very rational, good reasons to travel. Right. So,
and it's difficult that my wife and I represent both of them.
Exactly. I have a similar situation as well. In our situation, my wife, when she goes, like Disney, for example, wants to get there when the gates are opening, and she doesn't really want to leave until the last thing goes. And it is an endurance challenge. And we've brought friends with us before where we have exhausted their children.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. So even teenage children, or
young
even
adult.
close to young adult children. So anyway, but again, those people.
I think that's actually, those are 2 common buckets, though. Those are 2 pretty strong travel themes. There's the trip for slowing down and recuperating, and then there's the trip that's about see things you'll never potentially get to see again.
Yeah.
So, Robert, for some reason, when I opened up the article, the list is not there, just the skipped recap. I opened it this morning when I read it and it was fine, but now I'm looking at it and I don't see the list to it. Can you read through the top 20 that they read through real quick so that we have a list?
For the booking.com, really?
Yeah.
It should be globalnews.booking.com is the link, I think. That's weird.
No, it wasn't. You gave us the skipped link.
Are you sure? On live show 219, booking.com predicts the top travel trends?
Yeah, it's weird.
Boy,
yeah, mine changed too. That's strange.
Mine did not open up. Yeah. Mine changed.
Huh. Okay. Let's see.
If you could throw that, because I went over and I opened it up this morning and it was fine. I go to look at it now.
No, I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. And it clicks here. I'm not looking in the email. I'm looking at the link that I copied out of the email. Okay, yeah. So anyway,
booking.com. Throw it up in the chat box so people can have it. But yeah, it was weird. It was like, wasn't the article?
Huh. Hang on. Let me do a. It's hard to walk and chew gum at the same time.
So the rise of the second city traveler. So that was their first insight, and it's the theme of it is people being sensitive to over tourism are going to start setting out to explore cities that normally they wouldn't go after as a primary target.
Oh, hang on, Lauren, you posted a different booking.com link from down in the intermediaries as opposed to the top story. That's a different.
Got it.
There we go. I got it. I just posted it. There we go.
Thank you. Sorry, that was my bad. Yep, you're right. I grabbed the wrong article. Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Right link in the thing. Yep. Sorry, Ed, go ahead.
So they're saying that 60% of global travelers would be keen to have access to a service, whether it's an app or a website that recommends destinations where an increase in tourism would have a positive impact on their local community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that joins one of the ones that are done on the list where the people are going to rely more on technology because a lot of people don't know how to discover those places. And so they're going to rely heavier on technology to help them with the
or travel agents. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh, yeah. With travel agents as well, right.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's travel agents do.
That's like
good travel agents
really
do a great job of that.
Yeah.
Bad travel agents are actually worse than an OTA. There's a whole spectrum there, right? But but the good ones can provide really, really great great experiences.
They're
probably much better than you can do on your own.
Probably. Their second point with a very cheesy name is TechSpect, the unexpected, where they're saying more travelers will put their key decision-making process even more firmly in the hands of technology because it's overwhelming deciding which corners of the incredible planet to visit. This feels like a point that they really shoehorned into here because it was important to their overarching
exactly.
theme.
Let's not make it number one. Yeah, don't make it number one. Let's make it number two.
Yeah. And let's hope some travelers read it and agree and start booking with us because of it. And then number 3, slow-mo's the new FOMO. So that's the first thing you talked about, which is, unplugging, relaxing, packing less into a trip. And then, number 4 was the opposite, the all amusive escape.
Yeah. Well, part of slow-mo was also, not necessarily flying over something, but kind of seeing where you're passing through and having a lower carbon footprint, right? Where you're being more of an environmentally conscious sort of thing.
And yet the photo that they used for that was a train. So just saying.
Well, trains are pretty. Well, I don't know about the environmental impact of putting tracks into a mountain.
Right.
There is.
I guess they're looking at that as sunk costs.
Sunk costs, yes, exactly. And then, but
so speed of getting there to your point.
And then all amusive is, packing it in, having that, going to destinations that offer an array of different experiences. So, opposite of number 3. Pet friendly, number 5.
That's huge.
That's huge. I would definitely put my hand on that.
Restaurant industry as well.
That's been building year in, year out. Making great memories with grand getaways. So they're saying this is going to be the year that grandparents leave their kids at home but take the grandkids on great trips. So I guess the millennials are being left out in this run. Now it's just their children.
That's right, exactly.
I don't know. I don't know if that's a new concept. I don't even think it's a growing concept. I think it's a persistent. I mean, eventually, like we said, it's the year of mobile. Eventually, it would have been the year of mobile. I think that's the same thing with that statement. Grandparents taking kids away. It's been there. It's been persistently there. I think they keep trying to highlight that there's a growth to it, but it's just an age cycle. It's not really like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden this is the year that it blows up from what it had been before. I think it's just a perpetual thing that's there.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean the trends are saying almost 3/4 agree that spending time with their grandkids helps keep them feeling young. Yeah, I think grandparents like to spend time with their grandchildren, sort of thing, and believe that parents need time alone. It's like, yeah, those are both things, but you also have generational. But you also have generational.
Yeah, I think the only distinction I would give to this is that we know that millennials have less income or less money in their pocket at the same age that the baby boomers had at their age. So perhaps this is a fragmentation of saying the grandparents can't flip the bill for the entire family to go do something, so they're going to just take the grandkids this year. I don't know. It might be that. So
yeah, well, and if the grandkids are young, I mean, what happens a lot is if the parents have to work and things like that, then that's fine, and they can go take them in off-season type things, places where things are less expensive. Especially if they're preschool, before school age, right? They can do a lot of different things like that. There's more flexibility. So
yeah. Mr.
Ed? Number 8, fast track to long-term travel as retirement looks set to become less and less.
You skipped 7.
Age. Oh, I did.
7.
Sorry,
Race
7.
to the reservation.
Oh yes, another
plug.
Booking.com pushed in because of their ownership of OpenTable.
Oh, what a coincidence!
Yeah.
Really? That just dawned on me.
That is one of the ones I was going to slightly disagree with as well as kind of always been there, not necessarily important.
Here's our top 8, 2 of which are directly
from us,
self-serve.
Well, I do have to say though, my daughter and her husband are coming up for Thanksgiving, right? And we always go and eat at this one restaurant. And a lot of times, you wind up getting a really late time or whatever the case may be. I booked, actually it wasn't, these guys changed from OpenTable to Yelp, and I wound up booking it on Yelp in early October for a late November. I mean, I've never booked anything that early before for a restaurant reservation, but I think you're going to see more stuff. Yeah, you're going to see that happen more.
Yeah. Mr. Ed?
All right. Number 8, fast track to long-term travel as retirement looks to become less and less about reaching a certain age and leaving the workforce. And with increasing numbers actively planning to retire earlier, we'll see this moment become surprisingly synonymous with adventure travel planning. Nearly one quarter. Sorry.
I know we don't have much time before we run out of LinkedIn time, but I do want to go over and point out one thing to this. It seems kind of productive that if the very age category that says they want to retire earlier has less monies at the same age that baby boomers have, and baby boomers are struggling with the fact that longevity is increasing, so they're running out of money by the time they hit 85, how is it that the millennials optimistically feel that they will be able to retire sooner rather than later and still enjoy a lifestyle that they would want to enjoy at that age?
I mean, it fits the stereotype of millennials.
Right.
I mean, it seems kind of counterproductive. It's
like entitlement attached to things that you don't have.
Instant gratification, all those things. Yeah.
Right.
Don't worry, someone will take care of us. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a hard struggle for Social Security to even be alive by the time I need it. So I don't know whether or not millennials are going to be walking into anything that has a safety net.
Robert, enjoy your Social Security. You're probably the last of us to get it.
Actually, it's very interesting. I'm in the transition group of Social Security where they're moving up the retirement, the age for it, right? Which is interesting, and and Medicare and things like that as well. And it's just kind of you just see that going. Yeah, there was a problem, so they said, hey, the retirement age has to get or whatever the eligibility.
We're in real trouble.
Older, which is really, really interesting because at some point they're going to start pushing it where it's going to be like, hey, wait a second, folks, that's too late.
Well, that's already happening in Europe. Europe is already very upset that that you have to work until 67. You have to. work until 67. That's meant. You don't really get anything until you hit 67.
Right.
And at least in the States, there's some progression to that. But
they're moving the age up, and then they're also strangely backing, big tobacco advertising to target those 40 plus non-smokers to get them smoking again.
Spin the herd a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right. What's the next one? Meanwhile, back to travel.
That was it. That was the 8 insights, the 8 clever insights of Booking.com's travel trends for 2020.
I would like to step back to the pet friendly one real quick, because it is, I think, probably the strongest point out of the ones in my mind that they made. That pet travel is a real thing. It is a real segment to chase and pursue. But how we as an industry are doing it is dysfunctional. Because saying that you're pet friendly but charging $100 non-refundable fee per night. I
think you're seeing that less and less, though, Lauren. I mean, you've been saying that every time we brought up pet friendly over the time we've been doing these shows. You do make that point, and I do agree with the point. But I've seen way more hotels understanding that truly being pet friendly and creating the opportunity for pet owners, pet parents. What do they want to be called?
Owners, parents, whatever. Yeah.
To give them more opportunity to not only have their pet with them, but to have experiences with their pet.
Right.
I agree. I do agree with you. I believe the trend is in the right direction.
Yep.
But there are still, it's frustrating from our side of things where when we go to travel and it's the pet-friendly hotels, which are not still as numerous as I would like them to be, nor brand-wise even as numerous.
Maybe you're looking at the wrong hotels, Lauren.
There is possibilities of that as well. And it is true, yes. But in some markets, they have certain control over whether they want to be as well. And then what fees they want to charge. And then there's some that, there's some great hotels that, they charge one flat fee for however long you're going to stay there, up to a max of a number of days before they recharge it again, that are very welcoming. It's like, that's great. And they have little pet things and stuff. And those are fun hotels. I mean, you go in there and it's like a puppy factory. It's like dogs and cats everywhere. It's great.
Dogs and cats living together.
Dogs and cats living together. Chaos, pandemonium. Thank you for quoting Ghostbusters.
But it's interesting though. If you just do a quick search in Google of best pet hotels or something, guess what comes up at the top? Hotels. You got. Oh, actually, there is a local ad for a local place, but then Hotels.com, TripAdvisor, Expedia. All of them have their little top 10 lists of your local area, right? Yeah, so they've done that very well. But then you go into kind of the blogs, right, where they're a little bit more of a focus on that. I think a lot of pet owners, if they start doing that, they'll try to start looking at more reputable, third party.
There's no real clear leader yet.
If they're reputable, they won't be able to tell, right? So,
there's still no real TripAdvisor of the world, so to speak, of pet travel aggregation of information. I mean, there's with Fido and stuff like this that are out there that have some good content. But if you're traveling with your pet, it does require additional levels of research. That they just aren't as free-forming on natural discovery that you normally find. You can find a lot more general information when you're traveling without the need for it than it is when you do have the need for it. And I think to some degree, special needs travelers have the same issues and concerns that they have to have additional layers of research necessary. We don't make it as prevalently easy for them to discover what services are available for what they may need for travel.
Right.
So I think those are two similarities.
I think, and the reason I put this as a top story, I think these are all excellent areas if a hotel has a website to not necessarily go into incredible detail and build out, incredible depth, but these are, kind of points to bring out for, hey, there are different types of travelers here, either different things to do in the city or different things, and it's not just here's a list of stuff, right? How do you say, hey, if you are doing something for pets, we'll have an area where that you can be found and people can find out everything they need to know, or where they can go to get more information and just go, yeah, this is great. Reassure them that they're making a good choice and you're attentive to what their objective is of their trip, and you're going to try to help them with it.
Right.
What a revolutionary concept.
Right. We're at that point where we're going to lose the LinkedIn audience for this. So if you want to continue the conversation with us, you can join us at bit.ly, bit.ly/HDM show 219. If you want to join us with live, if not, you can jump over to Facebook or YouTube. We're continuing the conversation. And if you want to find more about Mr. Robert Cole or Mr. Edward St. John, Edward St. John is at flip2.com, flip.to. And Mr. Robert Cole is at rockcheetah.com. And I'm not going to spell rockcheetah because I had time with Flip. All right. With that, gentlemen, since Mr. Ed was so gracious to join early, what is your next favorite topic?
I had a couple that I liked. One was TripAdvisor ponders the platform's future direction and monetization. So that was a good one. The Airbnb contrarian one, I just have a funny quip about, so we can talk about that, and I'll give you my funny quip. And then let's see here. The Accor and Expedia one, I actually thought was a pretty good story. Had some good things to talk about. So those were my favorites. So let's do. What do you want? Funny quip or good conversation?
Oh, funny quip, please.
Funny quip. I'll take funny quip for $200, Bob.
So funny. So Skift publishes this article that is got a very clickbait title, which is, did Airbnb's contrarian narrative just get messed up? And the premise of this is, Airbnb has long said that they're different from Booking Holdings and Expedia, and Google and Uber, because they are profitable and they don't have to spend every dime on marketing. And then they go into, covering the first quarter financial results.
Which is the worst quarter of the year. Yeah.
Right. So, covering that Airbnb doubled its losses to $306 million in the seasonally slow first quarter, and their marketing spend rose 58% to $367 million. So their whole point here is, you guys are more like Expedia than you said you were. And then, you're reading this article and it's like, wow, I guess they are. And then you read update. A source familiar with Airbnb's finances said the company has more than $3 billion in cash on hand, has access to $1 billion credit line, and has been earnings positive since its early days.
And it has, yeah. They've run a very sound company.
Right. So it's like, here's a great story. Everything is different. They're not what they said they were. Oh, wait, they're actually what they said they were. Forget, that we said everything that you just read.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the other point.
That is the most skiftiest Skift article I have read in a long time.
Yeah. Well, and the one other thing to add, excuse me, is, as you start getting all these vacation rentals, intermixed with all the hotel, this is going to get a lot more complicated. There is going to be a lot more promotion and advertising, and who wins? Probably Google.
Right. Well, and let's think this through. So we know they're heading for an IPO next year. Mm-hmm. So what are companies heading to IPO?
Actually, not an IPO, a direct listing. They aren't.
Direct listing. Listing. So they're going direct listing in the next year. And what do companies usually want to do leading up to becoming public? Oh, I know. Show that they can grow at accelerated rates with investment. So
WeWork didn't do that.
Well, good companies would do that. Companies that actually have a legitimate core business. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, this is the thing. Airbnb's contrarian approach is they're running a sound business.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. They have made, probably in terms of looking at startups in this area for everybody else, they have taken direction and kind of adult supervision very, very seriously. I mean, you remember early on, they had a couple of things where, trashed apartments and things like that. And they didn't quite, it was kind of almost like what Zuckerberg's doing, right? With a lot of these privacy things, just really like, I don't think you want to handle like that. Either the visuals on this are bad or what you said was off. They had a few little stumbles, but then all of a sudden they kind of got their act together, and they did. And I think a lot of people criticize.
Speaking of people who've gotten their acts together, Stuart
Butler.
Who
love Airbnb and feel that there will only be Airbnb in the future with no other form of lodging. Here comes Stuart. So. Yeah. But it's taking a little while to get on. But there we go.
Are you at a standing desk?
Yeah, I always have a standing desk, but I'm just actually standing today.
Oh,
wow.
My back was giving me
as a standing desk.
It's all that Palm Beach rich cuisine that you had.
Yeah.
I ate really good in Palm Beach, but not like bad.
Your gout was acting up after Palm Beach.
I have zero gout, but no gout about it. 99% of the time, I stand up to work. The only times I sit down really are, I guess, when I'm hungover, which doesn't happen too much anymore.
Or when he's firing somebody, that's a real tell when they enter his office.
Yeah, if I'm meeting with people, I tend to sit down, but that's it.
There's only one true way to avoid being hungover. Don't stop drinking.
This is true.
Spoken like a true hospitality veteran.
That's right.
Hey, I have a point of contention with your notes for the email that you sent, Robert, for the show
about the blob.
I agreed with everything. I agree with everything you said about the blob, other than the fact there's no stomachs on this show. Because if you look around the room, that I'd say there's a few of us have more than our share of stomachs.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Well, I thought you were going to claim 719 of the genders. I'm sorry.
Don't label me. I'm good.
Exactly.
I got the privilege of seeing Stuart in person just a few weeks ago.
I got a big man hug from Lauren.
I missed out. I wanted to be there but couldn't do it.
Yeah,
so.
There's very few people in this world make me feel like cozy when they hug me because I'm a big strapping lad, and Lauren is just a giant compared to me. So
big squeeze hug. It was good to see him. Actually, we had fun. We were at the HS. For those who know, HSMI Curate is HSMI's. I don't know if they call it their pinnacle, but it's their corporate engagement program, and that was at the Breakers in Palm Beach County. And then Stuart, you were attending your own version of the
Marketing Advisory Board.
Hey, by the way, HSMAI on their marketing that if they're going to post social images of their events that they want people to come to, try to catch pictures where there's a lot of people in it that look engaged and excited. They seem to have caught like the worst times where there's like half the room isn't there and the half that is there are either looking down at their phones or like dead-faced, staring off, looking away from the speaker.
So the one of me picking my nose wasn't.
I looked for
what
it.
They should. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I was very impressed overall. I'm not supposed to talk about what we talked about on the advisory council.
It's like Fight Club.
It is. It's the first rule. It's really the only rule. But no, I was super impressed with the folks there, the brain trust they have, and the direction that HSMI is going. It was, very, very good.
That's because I've left the board and you're now on it. That's probably the shift right there.
Really an upgrade, right?
Or is it just because you
version 2.0?
You're anchoring that experience in other boards that you're involved in? Potentially,
yeah, maybe so. I will plead the fifth on that one. But it was right. I mean, those folks from all the major brands were there. You know, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Hiltons, the Marriotts. It was good, and there's a lot of people came to be engaged and really genuinely. What I felt more than anything was there was a desire to help the hospitality industry from a sales and marketing perspective. So
that's good.
Yeah, I think a lot of good things will come out of it, and hopefully. Everyone listening will reap the rewards of that because you're all obviously in the hospitality industry. And I'm excited about the conference in January because I think there's some good ideas coming forward. Well,
are you on the conference committee?
No, I'm on the thought leadership committee. So there's it's broken into four committees. There's the marketing committee, the CHDM committee, the conference committee, and the thought leadership committee. And I think what we're trying to do with the thought leaders is understand what kind of content is going to help move the industry in a positive direction. What are the challenges and opportunities coming down the pike, and then how can we as an organization, HSMAI, do a better job communicating that out? And I think over the last 5 or so years, the organization's been very one-dimensional in its communication, and I think we're talking about using video and using podcasts and using snippets of content in bite-sized pieces and things like that. So it's lots of good positive things coming out.
Well, that's a welcoming thought that you're on that committee, because that is probably one of the more driving aspects of the board, which used to be council, was the fact that that's the part that pushes through. The certification process is kind of a maintenance committee in the sense of always keeping it improved and better. But what you're doing is really the vanguard point of saying, hey, think different, be different, present different.
Well, and Dan Waxman is now the chair of it. So,
and he did a great job, really good job.
He's taking it pretty seriously, which is good.
Yeah, everyone there was really committed. There was no one there that I felt like didn't want to be there. It was really good.
Excellent.
And I think anyone listening that's not involved with HSMAI, either in the local chapter or the national level, I think I would encourage you to go check it out and see what they have to offer. Because
in answer to Ed's concern, I brought my 360 video camera on a 10-foot pole, which always solicits great visual engagement of people going, what the, as I wave it around in the midair. So you will get a lot more when I finally post the video, because I just finished doing some video excerpts of it last night for fun while I was drinking rum and Coke. So it's going to be creative.
And blurry.
No, the camera was not blurry. I would maybe, but I'm putting it together now. So as it when it goes out, it's going to be kind of interesting because it's like a mini drone. Because being that high up and flying it around, it's kind of like you have a bird's eye view of whatever you want. So around the room, around outside, the venue was spectacular. I mean, the Breakers is just a spectacular property.
Nicest real estate in the state of Florida.
I'll tell you what, it not only is the property immaculate, but the staff was spot on. To the point where I didn't mind spending close to $50 on a salad and one beer at lunch, right? Because they do such a good job. They're like, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But they pay attention to the smallest details. If anyone's trying to figure out how to do hospitality right, I would encourage you to visit that property because
they did good.
And if you want to do that without breaking the bank, go in August. You'd be amazed at how inexpensive the Breakers is in August.
Late August,
They run deals.
But
they run deals at like $300 a night, includes a round of golf, includes a meal, and the room. Which is amazing for a hotel that in season is north of 1,000 a night. And
1,700. They can fly at 1,700 even on some of the other rooms. But no, when I rolled up in my motorcycle for the event, it was kind of funny because I pulled up, they're like, hey, I don't know where to park. And valet says, oh, will you bring you over to valet parking? I says, I'm not going to let you valet the bike. He says, no, that's where we have the motorcycle parking. The dude ran beside me as I went to the valet parking lot so he could tell the guy to let the gate open for me to go in and park. I mean, it's like he didn't point and go, over there. He's just like, he ran beside me as I'm riding the bike.
Which is hilarious because Lauren was full on wheeling.
I was gone.
That's funny.
He's a quick runner, damn it. Those valet dudes, man, they're healthy. Anyway,
we were so on point before Stuart showed up.
I'm sorry.
We got through 3 topics in 20 minutes.
Yeah, we hit the LinkedIn mark. I hit the Instagram mark, the story mark. And speaking of which, just off the top, are you guys pushing anything on IGTV, Instagram TV? Are you guys pushing anything up there?
We haven't really dabbled yet, no.
Okay, just curious because that's the other part. There's an hour limit on that one, but I want to push stuff up on that one as well. Rather than just the storyline stuff, I want to start pushing some content.
Well, you got to put some noise out there so that not everyone thinks the other Lauren Gray owns Instagram TV.
It's a little rough. Well, this one's coming straight up. I'm not going to be using my Instagram handle. I mean, I'll be sharing it on mine, but I'm really going to be pushing it on the hospitality Instagram platform one, which. It's that's the only way I can fight the fact that I have a doppelganger that is way cuter, way more talented, and way more popular than what I could ever possibly be. At million followers,
but she doesn't give nearly as good hugs, Lauren.
Yeah, that's true.
Lauren is using his Instagram feed mostly for like selfies, fashion tips, how-to makeup tutorials.
It's amazing what those filters do to you, too.
I was checking my email this morning at home, and I was on my phone, and I was going through, and Laura Noyes sends out the email with the admin login for this show. And so I was scrolling down, and my son came up behind me, and as kids inevitably do, he was snooping and seeing what I was looking at. And he was like, you got an email from Lauren Gray? And this 13-year-old son. I'm like, Yeah, that's not the Lauren Gray you're thinking of.
Oh, you should leave
No,
it. Yeah,
the answer to that is yes, of course. I do a show with Lauren.
Yeah, I know Lauren.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sad. So, Mr. Stewart. Well, no, actually, Robertson. We got Mr. Ed had the chance to pick a couple.
Oh no, Ed had like three of them that he thought were.
Oh well, yeah, we had two.
Which I pretty much agreed with. So.
Oh wow. So do we want to do California protection or a core next?
How about a core? What the
Okay.
heck?
Yeah, because the California one's going to be a little bit more of an open discussion because there is some variances to what GDPR does compared to them. But yeah.
So I actually will say that I like how this article was written. It was actually a quality article that opened with a very salient point, which is the hotel online travel agency relationship has always been a tricky one. The two are codependent and must care for each other, but not too much.
Right.
And if that was not like just a perfect lead in to this article, I don't know what else could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And then to talk about, talking about how Expedia is really have shifted to how can they help these hotel groups in the realm of technology, data, or marketing, as a way to be a better partner. Expedia is a very wise company. As someone who has paid very close attention to them throughout their whole existence, I can tell you that they change with the wind better than any company I've ever seen. And
they are heavily data driven, let me tell you.
And the persona of that company shifts very quickly, which is impressive every time they do it, because every time they do it, they are far bigger than the last time they did it.
Yeah. Well, and they've learned from their mistakes because they passed on Booking.com, right? They created Booking.com by going into Europe with a very, North American centric focus, which grossly failed, and they didn't pivot, right? So they've learned from their mistakes, and they use the data to back up their hunches sort of thing, and they test the hell out of it and then go, yeah, we got some pretty good results, let's go. And
which is really makes a lot of sense, because they're getting to be an old company, and they're very large. They've acquired many companies. That's incredibly difficult to do.
They basically took about 3 years off, and they didn't get the same benefit that Amazon has done with talking to the investment community, going, hey, don't worry about profits, we'll be fine. If you want that, go somewhere else. They got beat up pretty badly and spent hundreds of millions of dollars consolidating all of those platforms, which was not an easy task. But now you look at and you go, wow, they've got some pretty interesting information when people start popping in, because you'll see these things where maybe you have the dates in one application and you go, oh, wait, the dates are in there for, you put them into Travelocity, but hey, when you went to Orbitz, they're already pre-populated. How did that happen? Sort of thing. So
it's amazing how a brand can recognize that consumers don't understand what sub-brands they own and can actually take advantage of that.
Right. Yeah, well, and they bought those sub-brands.
In our industry could benefit from that.
I feel like Expedia could do a better job of that, though, because if you go to Travelocity or Orbitz, it's the same template, right? They kind of lost what made each of the platforms unique because it was easier and more efficient.
But look at how they have structured the organization. Those two brands aren't really core brands for them. They're really affiliate brands. They're treating them the same way as they would as affiliates, which at some point, who knows if they'll want to spin them or not, right? They may decide to sell those assets if they can, have. Again,
but let me ask you this, Stuart.
Go like that.
Orbitz is a pretty easy one to identify what made them special. What made Travelocity special?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a unique value proposition other than timing there.
For infrastructure.
No. There were several things, quite honestly. One was they were first. They beat Expedia out of the gate by about 6 months. Very low volumes. Second is they spent a fortune becoming like $50 million a shot, which at that time was a lot of money, to be the booking engine for AOL and Yahoo, right? And those deals were traffic, right? They basically acquired they had exclusives on those sorts of things, and that's what solidified their
Sure, but from a consumer perspective, they weren't doing anything.
And the rest was it was owned and controlled by Sabre, a very air-oriented business, since I was there at that point in time, who really didn't care very much about hotels at all, which was an ignorant, flat-out ignorant approach, and all the strategies and everything that laid out, which showed them that there was a fortune laying there for hotels, they ignored, and here you have the outcome. So they had an opportunity to kill it.
Yeah, I just wonder now, like, how much organic traffic do they get to those sub brands relatively to what they used to get before they kind of bastardized everything.
They got one thing with Travelocity. They got the Gnome. They haven't messed up the Gnome. People love the Gnome.
I hated the Gnome when it came out. I thought it was really stupid, but I think the execution and the original execution was not very good. I don't know if they changed agencies or whatever, but once they started doing the more Amazing Race type stuff and making it a little bit more humorous and that sort of thing, the execution got a lot better, and people do love the Gnomes, and it made it different, right? Expedia had kind of a suitcase. It was kind of a hard-sided suitcase, which didn't really look like
by the
luggage.
way, if you can win one of those at one of their events, they're excellent suitcases.
Oh, well, there you go.
But how often do you see, Orbitz or Travelocity, they're ranking in the top 5 for a competitive keyword? They don't, because they don't have such a unique value proposition that Google recognizes as
so Orbitz, I think their value proposition was their trip planning for complex travelers.
Yep.
They were the only OTA that I never felt guilty about booking a full trip on because their trip planning was so strong.
Can I ask you from the Google zero click, better way of saying it, but have you noticed that there hasn't been a lot of OTA answers in those things? I don't know. Maybe you're seeing different questions come up that I'm seeing from those query stuff. But
so who's providing answers? Google themselves?
No. Not that hotels are doing it any better. I'm not saying that, but
I'm saying Google themselves. Just
they're Googling themselves. A lot of destinations were sold on doing all that work for Google. So the DMOs invested a lot of money to, have all those answers and to, fill out all the business profiles and take pictures and everything. So that may have sucked up some of the opportunity that the OTAs could have had to take advantage of a low cost path.
Yeah, because I was considering the dominance of the networking lattice work that OTAs have and their prominence in search engine page results, that you think that would be a carryover potentially of the authority of content, but it isn't, because the content is not relative to the queries as much as to destination information, things to do, so forth, as it is about awareness and inventories. So I thought it in a strange way, it's actually kind of like a crack in the armor. That's the way I'm looking at it, because from the markets that I'm working in right now, the OTAs aren't showing up into the answer sections as much as is just really some interesting one-offs. Ones that have, for some reason, have a great quantity of content about a particular topic.
I wonder if they're a fuel customer.
Could be, those fuel guys, those fueligans are pretty crazy people.
You like to break rules.
Hey, I like the new graphics dropping in.
Stuart, I will say I was a little taken aback by your marketing budget must-haves that you included rate parity in that.
No, so again, this is not my list.
It's your list.
This is a list. No, it's not.
That list came from you to us. It's your list.
Right. But I caveated that with, I was provided this list and I have to select the top 10. So that would not be on my list. And I'm gonna probably borrow some ideas from all you guys that contributed and Yeah. So this the exercise was, so everyone listening right now actually understands what we're talking about, is I'm speaking at the Direct Booking Summit that Triptease puts on next week, and it's a panel discussion, but it's a little different. We're actually building our perfect kind of marketing mix for driving direct bookings, and where would we invest money in. So there's a list of topics, and they're going to have physical bricks made with each one of those listed, and then I get to build a wall basically from bottom being the
and they're going to pay for it.
Who's going to pay for it?
Triptease, I guess. I don't know.
But no one's going to actually exexecute.
You're going to build a wall, and Triptease will pay for it.
I'm with you now. I was a little slow. This is right.
How are you going to carry the bricks in your suitcase? Aren't they going to stop you at TSA? I don't understand.
No, I think they're supplying the bricks. They're not real. They're foam. It's okay. Yeah.
Are they styrofoam bricks? No.
They're eco-friendly bricks. I don't know what they're made of.
They better be made of soy.
Yeah, so that's why I'd emailed you that, just to get some different opinions, because the last thing I want to do is go on stage and agree with the other guy that's doing it, right? And because he's
the
from
other guy that's doing it really, really wants revenue management tools and products to be paid for by marketing. That was my my take on the list.
But that list wasn't his. That was from Triptease compiled the original list.
Oh, that makes even more sense.
Yeah, and then he comes from another agency similar to Fuel, where they have booking engines and stuff like that. So I think we're going to be in alignment, and it's similar to what Robert said, which is let's work on the plumbing or the fundamentals first, and then kind of build up the funnel from there. I think we both kind of philosophically agree with that. But I told him I will probably play.
So you're saying you agreed with everything that Robert wrote in his email?
No, I never agree with everything he writes in his email.
Why would anybody ever do that?
Well, that's true. Robert doesn't even agree with what he writes.
Really? Now that I looking at it now, no, that's just a whole pile of crap. I think the opposite.
Yeah, we got to all start with meta search, right? That's
no, and just the concept on that was, if you're going to spend a ton of money on on customer acquisition, it doesn't do you a lot of good if they can't complete the tasks that you need them to do to be profitable, sort of thing.
Sure.
So, it's like, hey, welcome to our house of mirrors and the gauntlet you have to run through to try to book something, which seems to be the case of some hotels. I don't know. Maybe they only want the really dedicated guests who really can endure
I did find it odd that Ed poo-pooed on the UI for Booking Engine.
Because he said it was for an independent hotel. What independent hotel do you feel good suggesting that they invest in changing the UI?
All of them, because I don't think it means they literally go and update the UI. I think it just means they invest in a quality booking engine, like maybe Fuel's booking engine, because it's amazing.
Right, which was my point, which is mentioning that they should search for the options once they know what their goals are and what they're trying to improve, because we also want to avoid them just going with another booking engine because they think a one-page booking engine is cool and there's no data to support that it is.
Yeah, I think you guys are all overanalyzing the thought exercise that is trying to be.
You do realize who you emailed,
right? Yes. I mean, yeah. Well, the first thing I get that was Lauren saying, "Well, what kind of property is it? How many people? What color are the walls? What font is on the logo?"
That's right.
Is there GM old school or new school?
That's right. Yeah. Where is it physically located? I need the address. I need to go visit the property before I can make that my decision.
Exactly. I need to stay there for a week. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, of course. But yeah. So, anyways,
how else do you do that?
Exactly.
If you want an opinion, you got to be clear on what you're wanting.
He needs to interview the staff and past guests. I mean,
it's a thought exercise. It's nothing more. It's fun.
Lauren,
it's a 40-minute panel discussion at a conference. That's
Lauren, I've told you, you're a consultant now. What you do is all questions, it doesn't matter what they are, there's one answer of whoever gives you the money on the referral, right? And you just refer them to that, you get your check, and you go on. I mean, that's how
Robert's made
it. Foolishly, Robert never did that, so that's why Robert's not didn't retire 20 years ago. No, I mean the the revenue shares available to consultants, which are a gross conflict of interest, are pretty mind-numbingly significant.
Well, that's my whole wall is just going to be consultant. My every brick's just going to have consultant on it. If you just spend money on consultants, you're going to do.
Well, don't forget enchantment messaging. That's an important thing to invest in.
Yeah, yes. I don't think that they have their specific products as lists,
They
nor do they have Flip2 on their list of bricks either.
Because it wouldn't make sense.
You aren't paying them enough. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But no, and quite honestly, I never did that because when I was, hiring people to do that, and still when I do it, I ask them if there's do you have any other revenue streams from, technology providers in this area? And a lot of them go, oh, well, that's not really, and it's like, whoa, this is a yes or no question. If the answer is not no, what's going on, and the cagier, it's like, nope, you are disqualifying yourself. And I always looked at just doing it as like the guys who I'm kind of getting the massive revenue share from, they get really ticked off if you recommend somebody else. They're like, why didn't we get it? Well, they were a better fit. They don't like that kind of disloyalty. Sort of thing. We're
now, to be fair to people who are thinking Robert is like holier than thou, is he's usually asking this form of questioning over a lobster dinner with a prospective consulting firm.
No, if they
and it's once they've put the credit card into the whole.
Yeah, if they
goes, all right, now let's talk.
If they fly me out on the Gulf Stream to talk about it, then maybe I'll listen. It's okay. No,
I just say
stupid.
On this one.
Really
I'm the same
stupid from a consulting perspective. I think, Lauren, when you started doing your thing, I told you that. I think I recommended that too. That there are a couple of different ways you can approach this.
You can be rich and famous and get deep with recommending product, or you can be poor and honest and recommend things that are best for the client.
Exactly. Yeah. Are you going to be Lauren-centric or client-centric? Yeah. Yep.
You guys are different though, right? Because Lauren's a little further down in terms of execution. You're more of a
I do more strategy,
strategy stuff. Yeah. I think they're very different. I think it's okay for someone in Lauren's position who's executing, building websites and stuff, to have preferred partners that do that stuff for them.
Yesterday, I can't go into too much detail. I was talking to an A-tier venture capital group who's looking at investing in a group that I may wind up being an advisor to. So I'm not an advisor yet, which is good. So I don't have a dog in that fight, but these guys really smart questions.
I wonder what they're going to think about Robert's behavior on this show after advisor.
You showed a few sample videos, right? Couple of little excerpts of
a sizzle reel.
But these top tier guys who aren't just like the SoftBank throw money at sort of thing. Really interested in how businesses work, how they create value, how they have competitive advantage. What kind of moats they build. We got competitive factors of who can go eradicate these guys. It's great. It's really refreshing to talk to folks who are really smart, who don't necessarily know the industry and the vertical that well, but are understand business and investment and technologies really well. So that's a lot of fun.
As we come up on the hour mark, is there another article that we don't want to make sure that we don't miss before we lose the hour mark?
The TripAdvisor one. Ed always wants to talk about TripAdvisor.
They're my favorite.
Exactly.
So that article's title was laughable, and you guys actually laughed when I said that it was one that I wanted to talk about, because what I was going to be getting at with TripAdvisor ponders the platform's future direction, monetization, and competing with Google.
Which is pretty on the nose. Oh, yeah.
So are they pondering that perhaps they should serve someone instead of themselves? I mean, because that actually would be a good thing to ponder. Add value to travelers or add value to hotels. Or
one would hope that they have been pondering this their entire existence, right? Otherwise, why
behavior? Well, then what's happened in the last couple of years?
They've chased the market. They've chased Wall Street. Every decision they make has been short term, looking to try to make short term gain. But every single decision they've made has pushed their long term success further backwards. It's idiotic, really, the direction they got. Because you're right, Ed, they do not serve a master anymore other than Wall Street. And what made them great originally was they were the best independent form of reviews to validate that your decisions for the hotels you chose were not stupid decisions. So since they got away from serving that consumer, the profitability has gone downhill because the value isn't there for the people that pay them, which is hotels that we recommend to spend money on different platforms, and we're pulling more and more money out of TripAdvisor and putting more and more into Google hotel ads on a literal daily basis. It's crazy.
Well, and it's interesting that Lindsay Nelson, who is the president of their Core Experience, her background is like Slate and Vox Media, so she has a really strong like publishing type background, which I think is probably much needed by TripAdvisor, right? They're a media.
At one point, they also were one of the best content sources.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, but then they got like trying to be too broad and too many things to too many people. If you go to the homepage now, it'll try to sell you stuff completely irrelevant to you. I think Robert was doing an example of that recently, where he was, on there and talking about it was trying to promote, a trip to Chile or something, something that wasn't even on his radar. But that's not going to work. You can't just throw a bunch of junk at the wall and expect it to stick. So they need to get smarter with their personalization, and the content needs to be more focused on value.
They need to take a long look at themselves in the mirror and answer, who are they and who do they want to be? Because they have definitely lost any semblance of...
All right, so I just went to TripAdvisor, and the first thing they're trying to throw down my throat, right, under the search is the Traveler's Choice top hotels. And the first one is, it's a Ritz-Carlton Reserve in Mandapa. I don't even know where Mandapa is. That's my ignorance, right? But I've never stayed in a Ritz-Carlton, nor do I have the monetary means to stay in a Ritz-Carlton. So why is that the first thing you're serving to me?
Well, are you logged in as a TripAdvisor user? I am. You are.
You know what? I actually, no, I'm on a different browser, so I haven't logged in.
Okay, but that's the default. That's really crazy.
But that should never be the default, right? Because you're targeting such a small segment of people there. Let's find the lowest base common denominator and push that first if you're not personalized. So that's where they've gone wrong. They've stopped serving the consumer.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I'm logged in, and they know a lot about. I was one of the first people who linked the first day it was available, linking Facebook to TripAdvisor, right, just to see what the hell they were doing, and they're giving me some local. Continue your search for Galveston and Glen Rose. These are dates August 30th to September 2nd, and it's like
of next year.
Well, that was from last year, which I didn't use. It's like, so you think when was I searching last time for it? It was like maybe in June. Why are you showing it to me in October? And
I actually don't know what their normal consumer experience looks like because I use TripAdvisor heavily to look at hotels that are in a market. So
me too.
My hotel searches on TripAdvisor are all over the place. Like just logging in now, it's pick up where you left off. Hotels in Raleigh, hotels in Boca Raton, hotels in North Myrtle Beach.
Right?
And those two searches, those Galveston and Glen Rose searches, those were because my daughter was going there, and I was just checking on, where she's staying, what hotels, right? I wasn't actually looking to go there, right? So it's they've completely lost an appreciation for how people use the site, and they're trying to sell you stuff, and it's just crazy because you viewed New York City, Brooklyn, Washington D.C., and Long Island City. And it's kind of like because I was looking in New York City for the HSMAI marketing conference in.
You mean you don't stay at the
February.
hotel?
No, I never have. Yeah, so I don't think have I ever? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've gone to a lot of maybe
Stuart has to this year.
Why does he have to?
Why do you say
he has to lead by example? He's on the marketing.
I don't know.
You know what? No. I always try to, even if it costs a little bit extra, I always try to use the room block for whatever conference I'm attending.
Wow,
you are pro hotel.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown, because for me,
if no one did, it would all be screwed.
That I absolutely hate when speakers do this. So I was invited to speak at an event with Stuart, and I'm coming in for the day.
Yeah. That you are against, yeah. But it's kind of funny. It's like, I mean, Stuart can speak probably this a little bit more. There's so much better technology out there that TripAdvisor can use to re-identify what you guys are talking about. Because I am not a big TripAdvisor user. I'm a big TripAdvisor facilitator, but I'm not a personal TripAdvisor user as much as it sounds like you all are. I use it kind of a little bit to the purposes it is some research, and when there's clients relationship that I have to handle, I'm in there making sure that they're optimized.
They are the best source of room count.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Absolutely.
It's but always dead on too.
From recognition of current location to current dates are real simple functionalities that if you already knew, to Robert's point, that he was looking at Galveston historically at a similar time currently, to update that query to being forward into information that would be relevant to a potential interest in that same destination in a future event.
What I fear for TripAdvisor is it's not just us saying that they don't serve the consumers. The consumers have noted that TripAdvisor doesn't serve them. Most of the research I've seen around how consumers feel about reviews, they trust reviews on the hotel's website more than they trust external review sites.
Yeah.
And that is... Yes.
Well, maybe not more, but they're certainly to equal value. Yeah, our leisure travel study showed that.
Well, but even beyond yours, I've seen other supporting data that does say that it's as powerful, if not more.
And that's a shift, right?
That is a huge
4 or 5 years ago, the independently verified reviews had a lot more weight to them, but that gap has closed tremendously.
That's right. That's the loss. I think it's probably the loss of those independent groups and TripAdvisor's trust, right? Mm-hmm. That's because normally you look at that and they don't trust the brands because they think, well, they got their thumb on the scale here. So, I mean,
although Hilton may have won over a lot of consumers by having all the negative TripAdvisor reviews front and center on a hotel's landing page.
Just put here's the unfiltered truth. Yeah.
Just a quick moment on a wrap up of a time scale for those who are watching us with us on IGTV. If you want to continue the conversation with us, please join us at bit.ly/HTM show 219. And with that, I will keynote that time slot and make sure that gets cut off.
Can you tell how many people watched on IGTV?
I haven't yet. I haven't posted yet. This will be my first one that I want to cut and slice and put up there. So I don't know yet.
I'm going to go somewhere between 0 and 2. That's my guess.
Lauren, tell Stuart. Tell
you
Stuart about your emails.
Take the under.
Yeah.
Take the under.
Tell Stuart about the emails you got.
Oh, yeah. Oh. I got 6 emails. You know where Ed at the end, goes over and says, but no, he's listening to this.
So watching,
it says, I am. And they all came from Asia.
That's awesome.
It's a bot. It's obviously a bot. Yeah.
That's funny.
I'd say, it must be a bot. But no. I say to you, Stuart, from all great things come from small beginnings.
No, and actually, I
learned in Prometheus.
I have noticed something very odd really within the last couple of weeks. My Rock Cheetah subscription on the site, right, to just log in for emails, for blog posts, things like that, which the blog hasn't been updated for a long time. I'm getting a lot of people from all over the world, and I'm kind of like, wait a second, is this just some sort of spam bot that's targeted me? Who knows what's going on there? But I think it's the HSMAI feeds over there, so I think it's the same long tail sort of stuff. So they're
sharing. I mean, Charlene got back with me. They're reposting our posts. I mean, the rescheduling is going well. When I put it into their daytime hours for Sydney, I am getting feedback from India. They don't appreciate it, that it's not really fitting their time slot. So I might actually have to splinter it. It's the challenging part of it is that for me to do this correctly, I have to use EverWebinar platform to reschedule the broadcast on a time schedule where it's just not a on-demand feed that they play back to YouTube if they want to participate in it. Because when they participate in the chat box, I get the emails. So that's where I'm getting this from. Is they engage with the live show and then they'll comment in the chat box, and that's where I'm getting the kicks. So now I'm getting comments from things like the IMs And India's saying, well, it's a little hard on our time schedule to catch this at a good time. So now they're wanting a fragmentation. Plus, I'm also using a new platform with Charlene and Jackie called Social HP, which is that team building social engagement for all their chapters. So now the chapters are going to restart broadcasting the posts that we're scheduling with, in the hopes that we'll spread it even a little bit more. So who knows? I mean, like I said, all great things come in small beginnings. I have no idea if IGTV is going to be a success. It's just another channel that I don't want to ignore. But
I think you use the real Lauren Gray Instagram handle,
and I am there. Yeah, no, actually on the Instagram, she does have Lauren Gray, because I have my wife's name and I overlap by 3 letters, hence the company name Lauren. Lorenee, Lauren and Renee, Lauren A. So that's the Instagram that I have is Lauren A. Gray. And so it's kind of like to TCP Peter or something like that. So yeah.
You just got to protect that intellectual property, Lauren.
Oh, that's why I jump on every new platform there is, because you never know what happens with it. Gosh knows I have a lot of dead logins for
I'm quite frankly surprised Lauren hasn't been sued yet to change his name.
I'm waiting for the day where I get a big check offer.
Like, please stop using this name.
We would like to give you a lot of money to stop being you.
If that happens, can we pick your new name? Please, can we pick your new name?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm picking Magnus as a first name.
Magnus.
Okay. All right. So we're past the hour mark. We're pretty much into free fall at this point.
I wanted to add one more thing to the TripAdvisor conversation. Can I?
Sorry.
Yes.
So I really think there's a jump the shark moment with TripAdvisor, and it came in 2 parts. One was when they started messing with the results. The default results went from being the top in the destination to kind of what we recommend in the destination. Right. That was bad, and that's when it started eroding the customer's trust. But then when they launched the sponsored positions, that to me is where they really jumped the shark, because now any shithole hotel that wants to can rank number 1 by default on any destination.
Right.
And I think if used properly, sponsored positions can be valuable to a hotel,
especially if you're like number 3 in the market.
Sure. Right. Or if you're a new property to the market, right? There are certainly cases where it makes sense. But you cannot, there's not an argument you can make in the world that is in the interest of the consumer. And to me, as soon as they did that, it's like, okay, we now know you don't care about the consumer anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with you. Unless it was, I think the only benefit that could have come out of that, where there was a possible balance between financial interest and consumer interest, is a very distinctive identification that this was a sponsored placement of this hotel.
You mean the 2-point font that says "ad" and like
it was just maybe like a
light gray. Almost looks like it's embossed.
But to that point.
It's interesting. Actually, we were talking about Expedia earlier. Their terms and conditions page, where they now sort of explain their sort orders and how the compensation from the hotel. Now, nobody ever reads it, but it's still kind of there. That used to be kind of just not mentioned anywhere. They are explaining what's kind of involved in these sort orders and things like that. And even if you do sort something into an order here, well, they may take some liberties of doing such and such, and which isn't necessarily great, but I guess at least they're
no different than Google selling search position.
Right. Yeah. Well, in this case, though, they aren't really selling it. They're picking it themselves, right? So if you say, I want it sorted in this order.
They're picking it based on how they're going to make the most money.
Right. Yeah. Well, as one of the factors.
No, it's a combination of factors. I mean, so it's not always meaning they have the most markup. It may mean they have the most inventory. It may mean that based on the data they have on you, plus which hotel would be the most profitable transaction for them, this is the best hotel to put in front of you because you're going to be most likely to take this one.
Right. Yeah. They want the probability of a sale that ultimately, I think, legitimately is the best fit for that customer to be satisfied. And then they also layer in the dimension of, well, wait, how much are we getting paid for this? And then that's where they'll start, sorting the order based on that. Yeah. So the Travelodge, South Strip Travelodge in Vegas or something, if they're going to pay them $100 a booking, it doesn't matter, right? They're just like, no, that's not what those folks are looking for. Right. We just aren't gonna move you up. But
right.
But anyway, yeah. But for the other ones, yeah. And that's where the hotels get all bent out of shape with they need to be. All these hoteliers are like, they need to do their sort order a different way, and there needs to be legislation. It's like, just
whatever, because you know what? Those are the same hotels that in the early days were asking how they could get onto the first page, and because alphabetically they were buried, and that's not fair.
They're just salty because they are not top. That's not the algorithm at all. It's not fair.
Yeah. Oh no, a particular major hotel group I remember for doing things just at Mark Travel, they gave us their standard, recommended OTA agreement, right? We're like, well, no, we have our, no, you have to sign. We read it. We require that 3 of our hotels are always listed in the top 10. Mm-hmm. And you're like, no, that's not going to, well, then we aren't going to use you. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Because we can't do that. It's like, would you like us to put the other 8 to be someone else? You would go nuts if you were getting disadvantaged by that. No, just stop.
So yeah, I thought we'd make sure that we don't miss the new California rules coming up, because that is because there is some distinctive differences between GDPR and what is coming up for January 1st for them, and that adoption and so forth, and still the blind eye that our industry still has, and people within our industry, as to even the acceptance of that GDPR does apply to them as well. So
they don't have. It's the same thing as Europe. They don't have customers from California, so why would they really?
Yeah. What's the big deal to it? I'll throw the article.
Our industry still hasn't caught up with PCI compliance, let alone any GDPR.
Exactly.
It blows my mind.
I know. Yeah.
Well, I would like to talk about the differences between GDPR and the California laws, because there is differences between them, and I have an and/or question about that when it comes to the conditions of the threshold that they have. Let me post up the link here real quick.
The threshold is interesting because it's 25 million in annual revenue, 50,000 consumers' data. Or if you are in the business of making more than a certain percentage of your revenue sharing data.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I think it's a combo.
Is that an and or an or? Like some
I think it's or.
It's an or, because some companies have mailing lists of over 50,000, and they're a very small business. So that would qualify them at that point then as being under the California compliance requirements.
Yep.
Yes.
It looked like you're being attacked by a sea and an octopus, Robert.
That's a sea lion.
That is my legal counsel just came in whenever I talk
right.
about GDPR.
Making sure that you keep in line with all this.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason why the distinction for those, if people aren't familiar with GDPR, is that there is no threshold for it. There is penalties associated with GDPR as to and I didn't realize that they had already started chasing down some smaller businesses in the European community. I thought that was interesting, the examples they gave in that article.
Well, and
taxi company and everything else.
To say those businesses that got fined, that means they did not take the process seriously.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
But nor did 90% of other businesses that just haven't gotten caught yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the fact that, and you listen to the examples that they gave of the taxi and the doctors, the hospitals and so forth, that is just, I can say that there are plenty of examples just like those where there's too many passwords and accessibilities to too much open breach data that are being given without compliance as to how to dispose of it, or even that they should have access to it, and then retaining unnecessary data, that is yet to be determined useful or not.
And again, that's just sloppy. You shouldn't. If you have no use for the data, you should get rid of it, because you're just.
I think that's the thing. Right? People don't approach data with critical thinking, right? They approach it, let me get as much as I can, and they don't stop and have the thought exercise of what do I need the data for, who's got access to it, and go through all the logical things you should be doing from a data standpoint, regardless of the regulation. It's the right thing to do for the consumer.
Well, the other side of that, not that I'm necessarily a proponent of it, is the whole data lake argument. Put in everything, because you might be able to figure out signals and doing whatever to to find something that's hidden. It's like most of particularly the hotels, don't fall into that, having that level of capability to analyze things on that. Who's our new addition?
I'm here twice now.
Ed is there twice.
My worst nightmare.
His evil twin. His more evil twin.
Yeah.
He's multiplying. He's like the blob.
Yeah. Oh, it's weird.
I will say this, that at the HSMAI advisory board discussion, one of the things that was discussed heavily as both an opportunity and a threat, and something that the industry needed to do a better job of, and HSMAI could help facilitate conversation on, was regulation in general, and that spanned from everything from privacy and data to ADA and all that stuff as well. But I think everyone in the room would agree that we can all do a better job of understanding and applying what the regulations are. And also the knowledge that a lot of these regulations are created because people abuse the systems that existed. It's a few bad actors are what causes this. And mostly it's marketers. We're the scum of the earth. We will try to leverage everything we can to our advantage to sell people more stuff.
Well, it's good that HSMAI is taking that potential stand of becoming the unbiased resource, not authority. It's not an authority based. It's a resource of clarifying and identifying the constraints associated with the regulations, the requirements of the regulations, and the compliance questions that come from that.
And doing it objectively, right? But having points and counterpoints and having an open debate, but being objective about it, not being shocking, not being clickbaity, not being sensational, but factual and tangible, and giving people a roadmap to where they could actually execute a plan moving forward for their business.
Right. No, it's true, and like I said, some of the other things that they're talking about, and this is the scary part of the California rules compared to the GDPR. GDPR has some limitations where they have a bite, but they don't destroy the business. Mm-hmm. The California rules have a capability based on their fine structure to literally crush the business. Mm-hmm. Based upon
but also if you go to the data source that this article was referencing, there's a data point in there that 60% of businesses who are fined by GDPR end up going out of business.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
that's an interesting stat.
That should be a wake-up call for anybody that's running a business, and even if it's not a publicly traded business. I mean, first off, publicly traded business should have shored up, walled up, and put a lock on this stuff long ago, when this was even before GDPR came full compliance requirements, back May of last year.
Could we get them to put a GDPR penalty on the IRS?
What's the IRS doing with
it'll fall into I want to know what they're doing with my data.
Yeah. Actually, I think the IRS is really tight with their they don't have a lot of breaches.
But they don't have a right to be forgotten. I want to be forgotten by the IRS.
Well,
and I think actually that's the core. If you want to bring it down to an actual essence of both intents, is that there should be a right to be forgotten. Mm-hmm. There should be that capability of itemized data that you can isolate it based on the individual who requests, I want you to forget my data. Mm-hmm. That's the key, I think, the most key element to this process. And in order to be able to do that, extract it from all the sources that you gathered it from, and have it in a source that you can identify to be able to remove it is very hard. It's not, you forget how many email lists you get from different things that justify your existence of communication, and who has access to those, and where is it stored? How is it stored? All these questions are GDPR and now California law. And it's
only going to get more complicated because, again, since Tim isn't on, when you invent the ship, you invent the shipwreck. This is a challenge. The right to be forgotten. What if those are pretty nasty criminal types, and they just go, well, let's just go erase all of this stuff. I want all the evidence of whatever gone, right? That's
what I think will be more likely to happen, and will be a more interesting moment for these politicians, is when they realize that they all violate existing privacy laws with the way that they email their crap. And
their campaign, there's no way their campaign is following the regulation the way it's
at all. at all.
They are, yeah. And the more advanced ones are they're the Lauren Grays of pushing the envelope on new methods and techniques.
If you pay real close attention to it, unsubscribe from one.
Yeah.
And then a different super PAC will start emailing you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, if you look at right now, I mean, because I know this, you can go into your voting registration for your area, and you can get a list based on party affiliation of emails of people that are listed as registered under a certain party affiliation for the purpose and intent of political distribution. You can do that. Any citizen can do that. And to your point, Robert, as soon as they say no to me under the auspices of what I've contacted you on, I just have to create another identity to reach out to you again for the exact same purpose of what I did for the first one, but under a different name. That is so antiquated in what because you're actually mailing addresses, and so you can append those. I mean, that was one easy way to do is just take addresses and then append them, and then you get a localized.
You made me want to go put some seed names into some big databases and see what happens. That would be interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, that has to get all updated too, because right now it is completely open to just, as your point. Oh, you don't like it under this name? Well, let me pick another name and send it to you.
Mm-hmm. And with the super PACs where there is no transparency on who's funding this and behind it, and you have super PACs funding
other Koch brothers, every single one of them. Mm-hmm. Both sides of the issues.
Listen, here's the thing, right? I think if we look at how businesses have evolved, right, we've all had to get better on the HR side, right? There's certain regulations related to personnel and non-discrimination and things that there's usually someone in almost every company now over a certain size that is a pseudo expert or a full expert in that domain on those regulations. We're getting to the point where you're going to have to, if you're doing any kind of online stuff or data collection, you're going to have someone that is consistently educated and updated on this stuff. You cannot fly under the radar anymore.
Stuart, can you pan your camera around so we can all see your chaperone that Dual Travel is assigned to you? You're 24/7. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're always, there's someone that knows the latest taxation laws and the latest whatever personnel laws. You have to have that person on staff. Well, guess what?
It's risk mitigation. You have to.
But that's what I'm saying. I think we're going to have to do it from a privacy data collection standpoint, and we're going to have to do it from an ADA standpoint. And if we don't,
the interesting one to watch is going to be New York's, because New York's has right now the ability for an individual to bring suit against a business.
Yeah,
watch out.
That's gonna be insane. Like that's going to be. First of all, it'll cripple the New York legal system because it has to be in the state of New York that you file the court. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they got rid of all that crime. I mean, they need something for the courts to do, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah, but the number of frivolous suits and the shakedowns and things like that are going to get really ugly with that.
Oh, it's going to be like ADA all over again.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, and ADA is about to get worse again on the lawsuit side after the dominoes ruling too. So you're going to get a lot more volume of these letters that folks have already been getting. But with that, and with GDPR too, like I really, people focus on the wrong thing. They get mad at these drive-by lawyers that are trying to get these drive-by lawsuits. But at the end of the day, you should be doing this stuff. It's the right thing to do, right? You should have a website that is accessible to every single person that wants to access that website. You should be protecting your consumers' privacy. That's why these regulations are created, because people aren't doing what
about people without the internet? Shouldn't you have your website accessible by them?
Well, it's called a telephone. I think there's limitations and common sense should be applied.
I think the part that I get angry about it. First off, I completely agree with you, Stuart, in the sense that you should be addressing the compliance and the accessibility issues about the website. It's not so much that as it is the draw through the mud that you have to do, that you have the drive-by lawyer that mitigates this thing that you have to go through and show that, yes, you do have the compliances. Yes, you do have the logs to show that you're constantly trying to keep the most and latest and greatest engagements to the website, so forth and so on. It still costs lawyer fees to have the lawyer talk to the lawyer. And even when you can push back to the lawyer where they drop it because you're just not worth fighting for because you can prove that you're doing what you can.
That's the thing, right? Costs, it can. I think if you are smart about it, you have documentation to show what you've done, and just sending that back to them 9 out of 10 is going to shut them up. They're looking for the lower hanging fruit. They're trying to exploit people that have been lazy and haven't done what they should have been doing. So I think
if you ask them, they're doing a service.
What's that?
If you ask them, they're doing a service.
Of course, if you
for themselves.
Yeah, the bank manager would say the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. With that in mind, I mean, we can do one of two things. I don't know what time constraints everyone has for this, but there is a interesting conversation we can have over the rut row because
there
Facebook
always
Watch,
is.
I mean, Facebook Watch. I've tried hard to think that I could try to push enough traffic interest to get into Facebook Watch, but alas, I am not there. It is a hard.
You are not the Lauren Gray they are looking for.
I am not the Lauren Gray that they're looking for.
No. You have to consolidate all the 80 other feeds into one thing, and then
maybe if I gathered every
which is
piece of traffic
Facebook's
I've
model,
ever owned
right?
in my life and put it on one burst, I might be able to get up there for a brief moment. But it is an interesting venue as to what Facebook's trying to do in competition, because they already have with their Facebook Live and so forth. They already are fighting a lot of the YouTube engagement stuff, but now more so with the Facebook Watch, dedicating a channel availability to it, dedicating content to it. They're really trying to push the YouTube TV.
They actually have an interesting relationship with some college football too. Like their Conference USA, a certain percentage of their games are exclusively on Facebook.
On Facebook Watch, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say it's the stupidest name ever?
Conference USA?
No. No. Facebook Watch.
Facebook Watch?
Yeah. Makes me think that
because it doesn't tell time.
Apple Watch. Yeah.
Stuart tried to buy one. Yeah. He's like,
I tried to put it.
How do I wear this Facebook Watch?
Yeah, it wouldn't fit on my wrist. Didn't take my pulse, my blood pressure, anything like that. It was terrible.
But it did show you a funny compilation of cats.
Yeah, that's all I need.
So, given the fact that we kind of paused on this,
but do you trust? Is Facebook the best venue for that? They connect a lot of people. I don't know, and they're going very, very interactive, right?
This is the
thing.
How
do you optimize engagement, right?
The thing they have that is a slight advantage to YouTube is they are already a network where most people spend their time. Mm-hmm. So if they make moves to make it a better experience to share a Facebook Watch video than a YouTube video, then they're going to go quick on this.
You know that I tried new things when I can at time to time, and we actually have.
Really? I always thought you were kind of a late adopter.
Late adopter. Kind of. I want to see everybody else do it before I decide to jump in with anything. Yeah,
painfully early adopter.
Yeah, so I bleeding edge at best. So I try. I've done the channels where when Roku opened up channels, and I've done channels for Facebook when they opened it up, Apple when they opened up Apple channels and so forth. Because that meant, oh wow, I saw this New Horizon Apple TV. You can download these.
I remember how excited you were about us being on Apple TV.
Excited about waiting for that train to show up as I sit at the train station of life. And it's still out there. But the thing is that so too is 50,000 other people that did the same thing. It turned into this blast of stuff. We're at an interesting juxtaposition with CTV, connected TV, internet TV, Roku, Amazon Prime, all these things. Disney's now rolling out. And I mean, I'm sorry, I got to get Disney because I'm going to just go do brain numb doing binge watching on Avengers. And
you're not going to.
Why?
They're not releasing their stuff the same way Netflix does. They're going to release it weekly.
Bastards.
It depends on right? Some of it.
That's okay.
They're going to
have something they got to
do. Yeah.
Like the Mandalorian. Which I actually think is smart because I look at how my wife and I watch TV, and at any given time we can max handle about 5 shows. Mm-hmm. So now if I'm having to make 1 or possibly 2 of those slots, a Disney show on that service, it's very smart versus just cramming it in and staying up late one night and watching it all.
And they're going to try to capitalize on the kind of Game of Thrones event stuff, right, where people would talk about each episode and then speculate in between each episode, and franchises like Star Wars and Marvel are geared for that, right? Because you've got a bunch of nerds with a bunch of opinions and a bunch of free media that is just going to chatter about it in between episodes. So much.
And otherwise, it's everybody binges it and they watch. Like Stranger Things, they just boom, they watched it the first weekend or something like that, right?
Yeah, I will say, Lauren, I'm surprised you haven't gotten us on Amazon Prime because they seem to have a pretty low threshold for what they will play.
Are you saying that the bar is a little low on our content?
There's a guy
you, Robert.
who plays video games and narrates himself playing video games, and he is on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that is way more exciting than what sometimes we talk about.
Is that Ninja?
Be really good at a game. It's mesmerizing watching somebody go through those things going, how do you know where to shoot? How do you know to turn around and do that at that moment? Because they played it 15 times in the same time slot. But
no, listen, just because I'm making fun of the fact he's on there doesn't mean I don't watch it.
How do you think he knows about it? Yeah.
But I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a fracturing because obviously Netflix isn't going to go over, or Apple's not going to carry competitive content to their Apple TV. They're going to drop certain channel availabilities on their stuff.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, it depends.
Because I would say the majority of people that use an Apple TV device will not subscribe to their Apple TV service, even though a lot of people are going to get it bundled for free for a year or whatever. I don't think
I don't plan on it. The stuff they're producing is not interesting to me.
I'm not interested at all, right? Apple Arcade or the Apple TV.
I tried Apple Arcade. It's a disappointment because there's no real console quality games. It's all basically iPhone games.
Right.
Yeah. They're going to have to pay a lot of money, and when you look at the money that Amazon's paying for Prime and things like and the shows, I mean, in Netflix, there are billions and billions of dollars getting tossed at major directors, major stars.
I mean, Lauren, you have a CBS online account, don't you?
Of course.
Yeah, and it's because of Picard, isn't it?
Of course.
Yeah.
And Discovery. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, it's soon to be also. What else is coming out that's going to be landing on that one too? They're probably going to do with Captain Pike, so that's going to be one that's going to be coming out.
But they found a niche audience, right?
What's actually interesting about that, though, is if you think about that makes the rights of some of these classic television shows even more valuable today.
Yeah.
Because if that's the springboard, that you make it only available and you don't ever play it on your live TV. Like, this is the beginning of the end of live TV. The fact that there is exclusive content on the streaming that is more expensive than stuff they produce for their own primetime.
For sure. And that's why people like Disney have spent so much money investing in IP. You know, they went and bought Marvel, they went and bought Star Wars, they went and bought every Fox franchise that existed. Because they know that content ultimately is how they're going to win this distribution war. And we're all the schmucks, right? Because we're all sitting here complaining about $100 a month cable bill, so we all cut the cord. And now we're all going to be spending $200 on a bazillion different
But it's only the stuff I want, Stuart.
Right. I know.
Well,
Disney is so smart, though.
The only consultation I have is that after I get saturated with content from one thing that I love, I'll pause the subscription until the new stuff comes out. So I says to myself.
That's not at all what you do.
Never. Yeah. Well, but look at how smart Disney is. Disney now owns the majority of Hulu. Right. And they were sitting there, I think it's like $7 a month with commercials. And I think it's like $13 or something without commercials. But the new bundle with Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN all bundled together is like $12.99, right? $13 a month.
Yeah.
They're going to.
Or you can buy for 3 years and you can get a massive discount, and then you're locked for 3 years and you'll never cancel it.
And when I cut my cable, I've been without ESPN for like 3 months or something like that, because I kept looking at it and going, wait a second, the only way I can get it is to pay like $45 to get a whole ton of channels I already have. And it was I knew what Disney was doing. They were waiting to go launch their own product, right? So they didn't want people to get on other subscriptions.
Yeah, but the problem is ESPN Plus doesn't play any of the aired content.
Right. Yeah.
That is because otherwise I probably would drop my PlayStation Vue subscription.
Yeah.
Because I can get all the stuff my kids like in individual licensed things.
Right.
Hulu is enough for, broadcast shows.
Oh, well, you got the Hulu Plus or whatever, the one that's like the $40 where you get the local channels.
But I don't watch local channels because I don't watch local news because I don't watch TV for news. I read my news on the internet. like a normal person.
Yeah. Well, no, but I actually went out, but I just got an HD antenna, right?
Right.
And it's fine. It's $10. Literally, the antenna's $10. Coax cable. Yes, I got a Tableau, so I could do a DVR on it just for my wife watching, over the air stuff. So I probably overspent on that, but again, it's just one of those. That's fine. We don't have to worry about that. We've got tons of room on the thing. But as opposed to subscribing to one of these things at $40, it's ridiculous, right? But,
I actually just went through and looked at all my subscriptions and thinned out all the ones that I haven't used. It's amazing how quickly like that becomes a big number. I've cut $700 a month off my monthly spend.
What in the world were you subscribing to?
The big one was our home security. We were on an old school type of home security, and that was a good amount of it was like $200 a month. And the new stuff that Google has or Amazon has, it's $100 a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got Ring. It's next to nothing. It's literally like $10 a month or something.
Lauren has built his own kind of laser-based thing, which he's experimenting with.
Which is funny because it actually triggers booby traps, much like you saw in the original Home Alone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fake hands. I got the whole thing.
He's maimed 3 Amazon delivery people just testing, but still in beta.
Nobody's a porch pirate in my little place. I tell you what.
Yep. But no, he's got a wall, and he's got snakes and alligators in his moat. So
a little moat, a little.
And then he deploys the drones with the poison darts.
One of the things about all this, the CTV, the connected TV stuff, is that this is a whole new world of advertised exposure that is out there. I mean, right now there's a platform that is affordable. I say that with the quotes. Which is called Branzuka, which allows you to segment out platform and geography in your engagement. But you need video content. And that's the key element that seems to be a fall down, that when you're looking at Budget 2020 and stuff like this for organizations, I wouldn't necessarily say individual hotels, this is a venue to consider without having done a whole lot of other stuff core first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not trying to say bleed edge stuff here, so I'm going to keep Ed from jumping on me on this one. It's the idea of saying that if you are in a position of multiple properties and or scale of property, that you're doing all the things that you should be doing already and are looking for venues of opportunity, with that disclaimer in mind, then there are aspects of CTV exposure to feeder markets at prime time opportunities on channels of demographic interest that could be usable. Wow. I think I closed every door possible.
I'm not sure you track the impact. So,
done, except you forgot one thing. They also have the wherewithal and budget to produce content worthy of that spot. It's not just whether or not you can afford the spot. If you're going, there is an expectation for primetime commercials. I mean, there really is, and
it's a lot less than what it used to be. It's not Madison. It's not Fifth Avenue stuff anymore.
Yeah, but you see on YouTube, it's definitely
it's not
consumer level bunny ear pop-ups. It's not that either. Yeah, it's not. There is a prosumer level a requirement, but that threshold is a lot lower than it's ever been historically.
I literally just needed to pick something you missed, Lauren. So that's all that was.
I appreciate it.
Don't just try it to try it. Have a goal. Have a strategy. Try to have a way to measure success and define success.
And actually, on the connected TV stuff, it's way more measurable.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they have great graphics, and you can. This isn't just putting a particular promo code up. Hair Club for Men, use code, and then you see the lips move, but the number's different. Z1000. You. It's not that. It's having something that's related to the context.
Actually was.
That just gave me a vision in my head of Stuart doing a Slap Chop style infomercial for one of the Myrtle Beach properties that they work with.
Hey, check it out.
We've got a lazy river.
Yeah, be like a bad Chinese translation movie. Yes, you kill my brother.
But okay, a little interesting. all the airlines do their little Tuesday offers with their discounted fares and things like that. And people may wonder, where did that start? That started on closed circuit TV for the Las Colinas cable vision thing, which was a small little group and, generally gated, kind of a gated community where I think the VP of marketing for American Airlines and they just tested and they went, wow, look at this works. Because it was super measurable, and then they did a bunch of testing on that, on literally the CCTV stuff, and then rolled it out. And again, that was pre-internet, right? And then rolled it out to be an email-based campaign.
Also, too, given whatever the hotel is doing for their in-house media, most hotels are still burdened with excessive internal electronics that were sold to them by an entity that gave them their own channel for distribution. Not as many hotels yet have converted over to, I'm just going to buy it from a generalized source and feed that. So there's a lot of hotels out there that have the capability of internalizing their own content. This is a longer tail thing, but go out into your market and create content and find content from those in the market that you want relationships with and aggregate that. The magic number out of that, and this was off of, I got this out of high tech when I was running around with you, Stuart, going to the TV places that still showed up, was 22 minutes. If you can generate 22 minutes of non-repetitive content, because after 22 minutes, most people don't want to watch whatever it is you're talking about because they get numb to all this stuff. They said 22 minutes.
And yet we do 3-hour shows every week.
2-hour shows. 2-hour shows.
It feels like 3 hours, Lauren.
That's why there's 20-minute breaks now. No. Okay, so 22 minutes of non-repetitive content that you can engage the guest that this is a familiarization process when they enter into the room. We've done that before, but it's turned into a kind of a quiet art. Very few places do it. And I told you I used to complain when I went out to Vegas, even some of the more notable, huge places have 6 channels of events for themselves where they have amazing restaurants in their venue. They have amazing shows and stuff. And you go to those channels and it's more information to come or coming soon. And there's nothing there. It's just blank. They didn't take the effort to put any content on it. Now, those are large examples, but even small examples, a hotel in any destination, if you have that channel, that's an optimization opportunity. And then you can create promotional codes in those offers so that if they do go to that venue that you're recommending or talking about for dinner or whatever have you, they get a discount and the venue sees that it was a reasonable relationship to have created with you to give you that content because you're driving business to them.
So and I would be cautious to take that 22-minute number to the bank, because if that's a mean average, that means for everyone that comes in and doesn't look at anything on the TV, there's someone that watches double. So I think 22 minutes shouldn't be your hard and fast.
Well,
No,
and a lot of times it's on and it's just running and they haven't changed the channel. So who knows?
Again, everything comes back to, do you have a strategy? Is there a plan? Can you measure it? What is your objective? All that stuff. If you're not doing the fundamentals before, this should never be your top priority, right?
This is your first things to do
when everything else is in good shape.
First one needs to be, what is your objective? Please.
How are you going to measure?
If you can't answer that question, do not walk down that path.
Right. And your objective shouldn't just be, we spent a lot of money on this 10 years ago and we need to continue doing something with it.
Yes.
Yeah. Or your objective shouldn't be because it's cool and it makes us feel good. That should never be an objective.
And also, marketing. How is it that you don't accept that as an objective, Stuart?
We are the unagency. We are the unagency.
Oh, yeah. I remember way back when I was with Ocean Properties, I had a few hotels that we had put in this network software that allowed me to broadcast it as if it was a TV show to multiple hotels through their feed. I had to load it up, and it took all night to load it up for that to show the next day at that hotel. And talk about a black hole of time consumption, putting content together I was putting together videos that I had made.
Every minute of it.
What was your ROI?
Huh?
What was your ROI for that?
Who hell knows? I didn't know. That was just fun to do, right?
Who knows?
It really was. It was literally, can't even be done. After about a month, it was, it can be done, but you have to hire somebody that's going to be nothing but. And then to your point, what was we getting out of it? I mean, so we're featuring what was going on in Hollywood, Florida versus what was happening in Jupiter, Florida versus Key West. what? I mean, what I was trying to do is crossover selling between the hotels, that you're aware of other hotels, you're aware of other things locally without any guide other than just it's there, go find it, you know?
Right.
And it was just generalized awareness kind of stuff. And it just was a time thing. But yeah, it was,
that's where you identify the difference between can you do it and should you do it.
Right.
It's a big difference.
And what's the value of doing it? I'd even throw on top of it. It's like, well, no. So yeah, those days are gone. Now it's like, if you can't do it and measure it and get something from it, then don't do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are.
So we really didn't talk about Facebook, but it led down an interesting path.
Yeah. Well, live video is live. I mean, it has its value if it's used properly.
Well, and you know who does it really well? Cruise ships, right? Cruise ships have sometimes they'll stream things live from different events or things like that for people who don't, want to go to the place, or they don't want to, they don't have the capacity, right, to hold people. But, they'll do things where it's like, what's going on the ship today, and the next, the next port of call and stuff like, which people tune into that stuff like crazy to figure out what's going on. Right?
They don't have internet access.
Oh no, there is.
Yeah, there's no internet access.
It's a captive audience.
But if you have kind of a destination resort with a whole bunch of different activities and all these things,
no internet.
Well, no, but you could. But if you want to go,
I'm going to tell you this. I am almost willing to guarantee that the majority of people who are looking for content like that are not waiting around on your TV to see if you built content that they find interesting. They're going to go on the internet to get the answer immediately that they're
probably. Oh no! What I'm saying is, if you have a channel that's sitting there where people come, are coming in, and resort, and you have it, and you have a cycle of, hey, we talk about golf on Tuesdays or whatever, and you have enough things where you can. It's not just a 22-minute thing that repeats every 22 minutes the same every day, which does it. But if you wind up having things where it's maybe useful or relevant to what's going on for that season or that day or what's going on. That could be helpful, but that's a cost, right? That you've got to maintain.
Well, and actually, if you're going to build that content, don't just lock it in that silo. Put it on YouTube.
Oh no, absolutely.
Oh, you have to make this is multiple use
and everywhere.
Everywhere that you possibly can get value proposition for the content.
Oh, but then by that time, the time people get to your TV, they've already seen it. So should you put it on the TV?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
See what I did there?
Because you don't know where they're going to consume it. You don't know if they did see it on your website, or they get it out of a content piece, or they got it out of a referral. It can be anywhere at any time for anything. But the idea, the reason why I bring some of this up is that a couple of the other articles that you pointed up, Robert, are kind of like, we've been saying this for years, and now people are saying it in harmony where, well, you should combine your marketing data with your revenue strategies to determine your best process. Yeah, that's been the convergence conversation for 4 years now. How is it still in a news piece that we're still talking about the need to do it rather than the usabilities and functionalities?
Well, because there's still, like Stuart said earlier, the industry is still challenged with PCI compliance. And how old is that? PCI compliance is old enough to drink.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's right.
True.
That's a good point.
It is a shame that we still have to fight these long conversations because it is just a slow process.
It's not a shame because if we didn't have these things, we wouldn't have this show.
Oh gosh, no, we'd have bleeding.
Exactly. There you go.
We would talk about cool tools and stuff.
Cool tools. You've been dying for that segment to come back.
I want that cool tool to come back. I'm going to throw it in my podcast. I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm not bringing it on the show. I'm just going to throw it in the podcast. One tool a week. God knows I have enough to last for 10 years.
No podcast could be better than just listening to someone demo a product, right?
Absolutely.
They can't
nothing
see.
Nothing says listenability like, let me tell you something you can't see.
Tools.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Jingle.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm going to go on Fiverr. I'm going to go on Fiverr and have somebody sing it with a British accent.
there you go.
Well, I mean, if Australian's acceptable, you could just have Stuart do it.
Well,
That's a little bit more New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah, no, New Zealand.
accent.
We almost
Or South African. I'm sorry. I stand corrected.
South Africa, no,
Yeah. But I like the one on the hotels could profit from handing off food and beverage operations, and then they went through a whole bunch of cases like, well, yeah, if you do have a celebrity chef, they better be around and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I don't know. You can. If you aren't interested in food and beverage, don't want to do it, that's great. But boy, I think if you can do it properly and have control over it, and that you might be able to do a good job and help your customers. But
No.
Why would you care about that? Yeah,
exactly. Why would you do that?
We're in the hostility industry.
No, it's hospitality. That's the hostility. Hospitality is the word. Yeah, hospitality.
Well, all right. Are we out of topics?
Yeah, we're out of topics.
I'll share a fun story with you guys then.
We're out of viewers. They all left.
There are always more topics.
So as you guys know, we've been working on an interesting data project with one of our partners, and we've got the infrastructure all in, and the data's there, and it's really interesting. And so we had a meeting this week with them, where we were talking about how they should use this data and communicate with their stakeholders. The importance of their role in the general ecosystem of travel. And they instantly went to, no, we need to tell them that, we're taking credit for this. And I said, no, actually, what you should say is we played a role in this much of your revenue. And then have large buckets of what role you played in the subsects of that. So were you the first click in? Were you a reference point in the middle of a journey? Or were you last click? And just explain to them that each one of those are valuable. You're not taking credit for 100% because that's not how it works. This is the revenue you were present in and you played a role in. And it was interesting to see the resistance immediately moved to, oh yeah, wow, I guess that's right.
That's the right thing to do. That's what nobody in the industry does. Certainly most of the vendors in the industry don't operate
Definitely
that way.
don't.
They're like, I'm going to take 1,000% attribution for everything that I ever touch. Even if I'm not even sure if they may have touched it, I'm going to take 100% attribution.
Even if I have multiple products with them, each individual product is going to claim 100% attribution.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure someone smelled that ad at some point, so I'm going to take 100%. That's how bad it is.
It's true. You're so true with this that we just had a conversation with some vendors with one of my clients where we provided X dollars. Okay, well, we had you before we had you, and after we had you, we looked year over year, and we're flatline.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Thank God you had them. You would have had that valley.
That's so huge. You would have had.
You should have gone down in our stuff, and you should have gone up in your. Like, wow, look what you did to it, and we were flatline. You really all you did was take credit for what we're already getting. Yeah. Okay, that's what you did. Yeah. Came into the system, and you what we're already getting.
Give me $500 a month, and I'll give you a report that shows me the value of that $500.
The example we gave them that really woke them up was something that probably happens. So they're a good data source. They attract travelers to an area and then dissipate those travelers down to stakeholders. And so we said to them, what's likely to happen is you run an ad, someone comes through, they end up down at one of your stakeholders' websites, and then they leave and go do something. And then they Google search 2 days later to get back to that website. Mm-hmm. So do you want to claim 100% on it, or did Google play a role in making it easy for them to get back to that website? Mm-hmm. You shouldn't even be having the conversation of how they should feel about it. What you should say is, we were, early in the process. We were early in driving them to you. We played a role in that transaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, it goes back to the old analogy of basketball team. It's not the person. You can't say the person that brought the ball into the game made the basket at the other end. It was passed, it was dribbled, it was exchanged, it was set up. There was a defender, and then the ball was transferred to the person that eventually put it into the hoop. If you were one of those pieces in the play, you can't say I made that point. You can say I assisted in that point.
Do you know LeBron James? Because I think he would disagree with you.
Well, LeBron would always say, I understand that. LeBron James is the vendors of the world. No. He was the only one on the court, and he was the only one that made the point.
That's right. Because you just aren't educated on that topic.
So. That's right. Ford. Hey, out of some conversation that came over the past couple of days, it is seeming like the conversation of recession is just it's not Robert, is so funny to hear these guys walk around and pontificate like they're I've known this all along and I'm telling you a secret, and meanwhile you've been talking about this for months as to what happened in
3
July.
years.
Robert has been saying this is the year for at least 4 years.
No.
At least 4 years.
No. I've been saying it's a plateau. It's not. You aren't going to have growth. And I'm not saying at some point there will be a recession.
But
it's
Robert,
going to be very interesting for what the
drop-off?
catalyst is.
Is there a drop off at the end of the plateau or a hill? We need to know, Robert.
Here's some of the stuff that they were. I mean, they even referred back to July, Robert, which I had to snark. I almost snorted my coffee when they said this. July was the first of revenue, RevPAR and so forth. And I guess there's some economist that 4 years ago, and I don't remember his name, said that summer 2020 is. He called it 4 years ago. Summer 2020 is when the recession hits or whatever, and we'll see if it's true or not. But the part that they pointed to, which was uniquely different, was that this isn't an economic recession, the catalyst for it, a political recession. That it's the driving force.
That happens in election years. I mean, so that's not he's brilliant.
It's always
saying the leading to an election is going to be.
This is
when do people spend less money? When there's uncertainty, and when is there uncertainty? When the whole direction of the country is maybe about to change,
is about to turn completely around.
Yeah. Well, now think back. Usually, election years, major election years, not minors, but major election years. Everybody wants to amp up the economies to be positive and great. They will let stuff go through that they probably would have fought, but they want to make sure they take credit for it at the right time. So usually election years are a little more.
You're mixing consumer spending with overall economic production.
Yeah, correct. For sure. Visa would. I wasn't at Curate this past week. I know you were there, Lauren, but a lot of people talked about the folks from Visa that were presenting at Curate, and the kind of takeaway from that session was, here's the consumer data, and here's what we're seeing in the trend, and we don't think there's going to be a downturn unless everyone keeps saying there's going to be a downturn and people stop spending money, because there isn't a catalyst this time. So
that's what we're pointing is there's a political motivation to this, that it's uncertainty. The uncertainty principle is going to be the catalyst to this. The
uncertainty principle, though, however, is no longer what it used to be. Because here's the thing. The economy has chugged along during Donald Trump's presidency. There has been tons of uncertainty. The economy has chugged along with Brexit. And that's tons of uncertainty. The China trade war has not done to the economy what it should have done if you believed in the uncertainty having that much stranglehold over the economy.
Now, in contrast to that, the deregulation, the open season fire sale capability of corporate engagement, involvement, mergers, acquisitions, and lack of legality oversight is a compensation to that. That the people that are in the know and have the influence of making decisions are open field. They can literally Wild West themselves into what they want to do because ain't nobody stopping them. And so that's balancing out whatever consumer sentiment is, because the boss is telling the employees, it's all good. We're still selling the same stuff. Okay? Because they have no rules and regulations.
And there's a lot of Fed policy where the Fed has been taking these rather interesting and non-traditional proactive steps, right, on interest rates, which normally they would not do. But there is no cushion for a downturn. It can't, right? Yeah. If there is a downturn, the Fed does not have really much room to adjust anymore. So it's all kind of borrowing from now, let's keep things up, to, well, we'll drive off that bridge when we come to it, right? So that's my concern, is what's the catalyst, right? That I don't think anything is going to.
For us in hospitality, what they pointed out was a deluge of new inventory. Remember, there was the pause that was created after the Great Recession.
There's not a deluge of new inventory. Yeah.
Over a quarter million rooms coming to market.
But that won't cause a recession. It's going to be a supply and demand adjustment, right?
Right. That's not a recession.
Well, what they're saying is because of that huge amount of inventory coming into market at current demand levels, you cannot sustain ADRs.
Yeah, but Lauren, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. but here's the problem on sustaining ADRs. Okay, over the last 52 weeks, ADRs are now up 1.15%. Right, that growth rate has been eroding consistently for I would have to go back and look. Right,
Look at all the
probably 3
this
years.
last week.
Because that's the thing with the plateau. The growth rate keeps shrinking. It's still growing, but it's shrinking. But this is the interesting one. Revenue per available room, actually this week, or last week, first time the 52-week moving average dropped below 1% on RevPAR. So that growth, because we're in negative territory now for occupancy, right? Occupancy is down about 0.1% over the last 52 years, or the growth rate's negative, right, of 0.1%. So that's where you're getting into, and you have a very robust all-time high. Well, I shouldn't say all-time high ADRs, because another interesting stat in the weekly trends is this year. Normally week 39-ish, and it kind of depends a little bit, but week 39 is the peak ADR one for the year. It didn't make it this year. It was off, versus 2018 by about
well, look at all
70 cents, which is not great. I mean, normally the year before
a 70-cent miss would sink a public company.
Yeah. Well, but but the year before, when you start looking at these, it's like, oh, it was at 130 in 2017. In 2018, it was 137. Oh, now we miss. Those were always
what is it now?
Steps. It's now 136.63. Right. So it's not that it's bad. It's just it's not growing the way it used to. Right. That's the whole thing. It's plateaued.
Hey,
it's plateaued out.
Data, right, that you collect that I think is proprietary and no one else really has. At least
everybody has this. It comes from the STR stuff. I just look at it.
So you're just okay.
And I look at it a different way than everybody else looks at it.
Right? Oh, wait a minute! If you were talking to Tim Peter, he would say that you're in violation of I didn't share that with you, and you're taking data and manipulating it.
You say things and see things and patterns that a lot of people aren't noticing in the STR report. So why do you not repackage that and either blog about it or sell?
Oh, you weren't on for the earlier discussion where Robert was explaining how there were two different types of consultants. There were the ones that make money.
He's not affiliated. He's not hard selling. I mean, he's not selling. He's not benefiting from somebody else.
Did you not hear how I paraphrased what he was saying?
Yeah. No. I do monetize the data. I work with actually two firms. One is a kind of a public equity analyst group, and another one is a little bit more specialized in terms of what they do working with analysts. But
let me ask the question, because this is a stat that actually surprised me when it was shown to me. Does corporate travel dictate leisure travel, or does leisure travel dictate corporate travel?
What do you mean dictate?
Which one leads the other?
Oh, which one leads?
Leisure travel goes down, does it affect corporate, or does corporate affect leisure travel?
Oh, I don't have any. I have not looked at the data that way.
You're asking, is one a predictor of the?
I don't know if one. Mm-hmm. I would say if you put a gun to my head, I would say the corporate would be a predictor of leisure generally, because that's the vibrancy of those and if corporate travel is going down, people are not getting as many air miles and things like that, right? To go convert to leisure. So
I was believing what you did. I would have said exactly what you said, and they showed us stats that were exactly the opposite. Leisure dictates corporate travel. When leisure,
that's bullshit. That's absolutely
wait. Who's they?
I've got a curious consideration. I don't want to start pointing who was in the room.
Okay, but it was it's not a cause and effect relation. You can say there's maybe a leading indicator that if you see leisure travel tailing off, I would say that might be more of like a consumer confidence type thing. That would be kind of the leading indicator, and then maybe you have a little lag on consumer confidence in terms of being absorbed by business, but leisure travel has a longer lead time and things like that.
Usually what happens is that when we begin to see leisure trail from a revenue management perspective of strategy, we then look towards corporate to replace the leisure demand. Is usually historically how I've approached the
group or whatever. Right. Yeah,
let's expand our corporate engagement. Let's look for corporate incentives and so forth. What was displayed to us in data, and I don't mean to be evasive about it, but I don't, with Curate and what they have, it's theirs to release as to whom they engaged with giving us this data. Yeah. So I'll share elsewhere, but they said that basically when this happens, corporate is receding faster than the receding of leisure. That leisure is the trend developer to what corporate does. That if you see leisure trending, corporate isn't going to replace leisure demand. You're not going to expand your leisure value to replace leisure loss. Corporate is descending faster than leisure if leisure is already descending. So you're not strategically able to replace your leisure loss with corporate demand because corporate.
I would agree. I would agree with that, but I wouldn't necessarily say there's a causal relationship between.
I'm not saying there's a cause A and effect. It's a trend. It's a reflection
they're saying
an indicator to the other. Yes.
Maybe. I don't know though. I think seasonality.
I would have not. I never did think of it.
I've got to look. I would say you got to look
where
at
I would challenge
the length
anyone.
of the moving averages. Look at the length of the moving averages on those because there's a lot of seasonality.
I also would challenge anyone who says that they have data that shows this, and the reason I would challenge that is there has not been a pullback in a very long time, and the last pullback was not a standard economic pullback. It was a collapsing financial system.
Right.
So you can't use any data from that. And then the last big pullback before that was a unforeseen, act of terrorism, and and then before that it was the .com bubble. When's the last time we had a normal economic cooling period?
Right. Exactly.
Well, I can tell you when it was. It was when the economy in general was completely different. It wasn't nearly as globalized as it is today. It did not have social media. It did not have most of the things we have today. So I challenge anyone who says that they
have automated trading.
Right. It didn't have anything. So there is no quality data that you can trust on the situation that we're heading into, because what we're heading into is a healthy, normal cycle of economy where, yes, you can't go up forever. That it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I've always been a huge critic of the STR lodging econometrics, Oxford stuff when they have like their index of leading indicators. It's bullshit because if they use a 6-month moving average, which there's so much seasonality in this business. The numbers skew one direction. One part of the year they skew the other way, and the other part. And I've tracked this out and going, don't use that.
I bet Stuart has the same problem when it comes to when clients pop up going, I just got my static whatever report from whatever platform, and we went down in traffic or XYZ or calls or this or that from the same previous period. And it's like, please don't look at period over period on some of this data. It's not that it's irrelevant, but what you're looking at it is inaccurate. What you really need to look at is year over year, same demand time, same demand cycle. Are we same, better, or different, or worse than what we were in the same time frame of last year? Not August over September or something, because you can't keep going up. There are months where you dip or plateau or down because demand cycles are different.
Well, and I think it's a lot more nuanced than that, Lauren. I don't even you can look at December versus December of the previous year, because sometimes like Black Friday falls in a different month, or Easter is earlier or later. So there are certain catalysts for demand that you have.
So that's the caveat too. If you see a difference in number, you then need to go understand why there's a difference in number.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I agree with Ed in terms of there's a lot of people predicting the downturn because of things in the past that may have led to a downturn. Like the inversion of the yield curve is one that a lot of economists talk about, right? Where the value of short-term versus long-term investments in the bonds is switching to what it is typically. And if it does that for more than 3 months in a row, typically a recession follows within the next 12 months. That's probably not going to happen this time, because why it inverted is different than why it inverted before. So I think we're all speculating, we're all dealing with unknowns. And the problem is the more we talk about it on this show, at conferences, over at the bar with our families, the more likely it is to become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
This is why I go to everyone and tell them there's nothing but growth on the horizon.
Are you the guy out of National Lampoon's Animal House? Was it the guy that was like "Remain calm"? Remember he was
Remain calm.
Kevin Bacon.
Oh,
Kevin Bacon. He was out there. Remain calm.
Everybody remain calm. We all need to remain calm.
All right,
Yeah.
it feels like we're running out of gas here.
I hate the Animal House movie. Just for the record, the fraternity that I was in, Animal House messed up our toga party, which was much wilder than the Animal House toga party. All other parts
Untold
of that
Tales
movie
by
were
Robert
fantastic.
Cole.
But yes, that movie screwed up the toga party. So
Okay, no, that's all right. The movie.
I'm
Cocktail
surprised
screwed up
your
my
toga
birthday
parties were
career,
any
so.
good during Prohibition.
actually, the toga party started in the 50s, I believe. So yeah, it was a great tradition.
The genre. Well, mine was remember the Tom Cruise movie Cocktails where they were flipping bottles and all that stuff. Yeah. Well, I always used to do that as a bartender until the damn movie came out, and the first girl that came and go, "Oh, it's just like the movie." I'm like, "Oh, that's it. We're done."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh well, gentlemen, we are. Well, I wouldn't say way over time because what is way over time when it comes to the show? But we are past our normal time on the show.
I got to go work.
Yeah, I got a 2:00, 2:30. I mean, it's a happy day in paradise. But I will send you the video link, and if you want, after when we shut down, I'll tell you some of who fed this information around and stuff like that, so we can talk a little bit more if you want. But anyway, Mr. Robert, if people want to know about you and Rock Cheetah, where is it that they go, sir?
RockCheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole on social media. Yeah.
And Mr. Stewart, you have an excellent new graphics on your postings for your podcast. I like all of them. They're topically driven. The imaging graphics match the topics. You're getting slick. I think you're dedicating yourself to the purpose of the podcast.
Yeah, we have a very talented designer on staff that has started doing more of that stuff for us, like internal marketing. One of the things that's weird about Fuel is we don't have any internal marketing staff, period. Like all our marketing folks are busy working on clients. So we're kind of like the cobbler's kids without shoes. So we're making a little more of a concerted effort to polish our stuff beyond just doing the podcast. So we, stay tuned for more to come from Fuel.
It looks good. It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Where is it they can find you and your podcast, sir?
Yeah, so the mothership is fueltravel.com. You can find out anything you want to about there. We're actually in the process of putting on the homepage there because we from time to time produce different downloads like leisure travel studies, and we did a technology study last year with Flip2 and Stay in Touch. So we usually promote those as one-off kind of events, but we realize that people still want them after the fact. So we're putting a bunch of new downloads on the homepage, launched a bunch of new case studies based on the entries we put to the Adrian Award. So we're just upping our marketing game a little bit. Wow. But if you really want to learn more about Fuel in general, the best place to do that is to listen to the Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast because it's fun and amazing, and you will learn lots. And then if you want to see me, I'll be speaking at the Direct Booking Summit next week. So if anyone's going to that in Miami, then come and say hello and buy me a beer, or I'll buy a beer. One of the two. I'll be drinking either way, whether you buy or I
either way, whether you buy them on or you buy them someone. Mr. Ed, if you want to know about you or Flip2, where's they can find you, sir?
You can find Flip2 at flip.to. You can find me at Edward St. Ange. You can learn about Flip2 on the Fuel podcast. Thanks for that, Stuart.
Credo, that's what we call you on the.
Hey, you know what? I've been meaning to tell you. We got an inbound. I heard about you guys on the Full podcast.
Full podcast.
Full?
Wow. FOOL or FULL?
FUL. Full.
Oh,
man, I wish it was FOOL.
That would have been great.
So, Stuart, I got to tell you real quick before we jump off. So I went over and I started listening to the podcast through my watch when I work out, rather than having to carry my phone around, which is one less thing to walk around the workout place with, right? Because I got the earbuds and I got this now. Well, I forgot to change the speed on it. I usually listen to you at 1.5 speed. I'm used to the quick, snappy, bing, bing, bing. When I start listening to you in normal speed, I'm like, wow, they're talking really slow.
It completely changed how he feels about the product.
It is. All of a sudden, I'm like, man, this is boring shit.
So these guys are so on it. They're so quick-witted. It's like, no, we take 30 seconds. It just sounds like 10 seconds when you listen to it.
That's what it is. That's what it is. All right. With that, gentlemen, thank you very, very much. Next week's show, 2:20. Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Where can people find you, Lauren?
Currently now, but soon to change on where the show's going to be housed and homed because I'm working on it. But currently it's at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Look for show number 219 for the replay of this broadcast and all the previous 218 if you want to go look for them. And we'll have Mr. Robert's well-curated list on the hyperlink for it as well. So if you're, for the topics that we did cover and those that we may have not stepped on, they're there to be seen as well. So with that in mind, till 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central U.S. time. And for those that listen to this replay in APAC or EU, to your scheduled times on now Tuesdays. I found that putting it later in the week allows people to sign up to join it. There is designated times that you'll see on the postings on the Facebook Live or Facebook pages for HSMA APAC and EU that you'll see their times for those. Usually it's around 11:30 Sydney and 11:30 London time for Tuesdays. So anyways, with that in mind, thank you all, gentlemen, and we will talk to you hopefully this upcoming Friday for show 220.
Excellent.